Okay, it looks like we're live. Hope all of you are doing well. Um, we're doing the usual here. We're saying hello, greeting everyone for the first 10 minutes, and then we're going to cover the main topic for the live stream, which is private equity or private credit, which is yeah, which is something not many people know about, and it's grown a lot in the last 25 years, mainly because uh, returns have been kept so low by central banks, but now things are changing. So thanks for everyone being here today. We got back yesterday from Switzerland. Rudy's back as well. Rudy stayed with a really nice family while we were away. We used a very good service. Picked him up today. He was happy to see everyone. We had a great time in Switzerland. Yeah, Rudy is here. There he is. He's on the sofa. Manic Miner. Dutch Libertarians here. Pablo Pina. Spock 2024. Jim Tillapaw. Brady. Atari Legend. Olivier Leroy is here. Stanley Sorensen. Paul Weens from Manitoba. Pablo Pina. Matt Bittner. Hi, Matt. No. No, thank you for being moderator. Dark Horse. I hope everyone had a good Christmas, or if you celebrated, of course. Some people celebrate other holidays. We had a really good time. We saw not just my family, but, well, my family and also my niece came with family from the US. So it was a big Christmas dinner, like 20 people. My mom also did some cooking for us, home cooking, some old recipes. And it snowed a lot the first couple of days we're there. And after that, it was beautiful, sunny weather. I skied, only once, but it was nice. Didn't have much time for skiing, but no, it was great. Yeah, Rudy is asleep. Rudy, come on, boy. Roots? No. Yeah, he's resting. He's a little tired. Um, we've been out already. Nikki Patel is here. I saw some comments earlier before I got on that Nikki Patel had an argument at Christmas dinner. I'm sorry to hear that. Um, Oro Lobo, cheers from Queens, New York. William Birkin Road, Torrey Pines Golf Club. Yeah, I played Torrey Pines many years ago. The Optimist, the Junior World Championships in 81 and 82. It's a beautiful place. Daniel El Sovrano, Happy Christmas, Mary. Looks nice in Switzerland. Did you sing? No, I didn't. I'm not really a singer, but Matt Bittner, if you're buying precious metals, in particular platinum, what difference does it make between coins or bars? I don't have any platinum. I don't think it makes much difference. I think the bars are probably a bit cheaper, the premium. Coins are always a little bit more of a premium just because there's more work involved in minting a coin than casting a bar. Same thing goes for gold and silver. So yeah, the topic today is about private equity. We'll come to that in a minute. And then I'll be doing the usual stuff, just taking your questions, because a lot of times it's difficult to go through all the comments in the videos. So, private equity could be the new subprime and major pain for the economy. So, it might sound a bit exaggerated, but I think it could be kind of a black swan, but we'll go through it. It's not as clear cut. It's not really like a normal market like the stock market. It's very opaque and it's not a public market, so we don't have much information on it. But we do have some numbers that we can look at. Stephen Kamhanak. I probably butchered your name. I'm sorry. Steve, yeah, from Ireland. Yeah, have a great New Year too. Yeah, we've only got a couple of days to New Year's Eve. Samuel Capuano says Rudy makes you more likable. Okay. Yeah. US stat clock shows 412.88 paper ounces to every physical ounce of silver. Yeah, I guess that's Cozy Fantuti. They're looking there at the COMEX contract open interest, I guess, and how much they actually hold in registered inventory, which isn't that much. So it's highly leveraged. Yes, hi Richard, I'm doing well, thank you. It was a little difficult getting home because some of the train lines were they're doing works right at New Year's, around this time of the year, but we got home all right. Uh, and I also drove in Switzerland when we got there, had to drive up from the airport in Geneva, and there was a lot of snow. I managed okay. I hadn't driven in so much snow in a long time. Such a thing as private company anymore. I thought successful businesses are all corporations, therefore public. Not necessarily. I mean, we're going to come to that in a few minutes, a couple of minutes until after I say hello to everyone. David Whitworth, do you see the bond market in 2028? Where do I see? Uh, well, I see long-term yields a lot higher in 2028. Yeah. That's how. So I see long-term bond prices a lot lower. A blank stares. What's going to happen to spot silver and gold? How much longer till we can retire off of 100 ounces? Well, 100 ounces of gold is worth about 262,000 dollars. I guess depends where you live. Some places you could maybe retire on that, but I think it needs to be a lot higher. But the reason why I've been stacking and holding gold is partly to protect my savings. And of course, when you retire, you need to, yeah, utilize your savings. But it's not really the reason why I've been stacking gold and silver is just to protect the savings because if I'd left my savings in fiat currency, it would be worth a lot less. I mean, it would be maybe more than I put in because of well, the small interest they pay, but it wouldn't buy as much at all. While gold is well, it's gone up like almost 10 times in the UK since 2002 and in the US as well. I mean, since 2000, 2001 has gone up comfortably more than 10 times. So it's done a job of protecting your savings. I think what's going to happen, and I could be wrong, it's one of nothing is for certain. What would be ideal would be that even though I think we're going to continue to see the currency become worth less and less, we could even have something close to hyperinflation. But eventually, what would be good would be for a total co deflationary collapse of all paper asset prices. Uh, and I think gold and silver would do really well in that environment as well. And then that would be a good time to invest for your savings with what you got in terms of gold and silver. So that's how I see it. And some people, this thing about retiring at a certain age, that's another thing that the powers that be have instilled in us, that we need to retire and stop doing things. So I'm not necessarily sh sure I will ever retire. I think it's always good to be active. Yeah, you can slow down, but I think you always have to find a way to create some value somehow. And that's what I try to do here on YouTube as well. So, yeah, it's the top of the hour. So we're going to start looking now at private equity briefly. Then we will continue with the questions. Um, so let me have a look again here. The title, yeah, private equity could be the new subprime and major pain for the economy. So yeah, uh, someone said in the comment just a few minutes ago that they thought private companies or private equity or private credit uh, was not as big as the public stock market, and that's true. But nevertheless, um, and I'm sharing here this article. This is from July, actually, this year, on Bloomberg, and it's an opinion piece by Allison Schrager. And it says the private equity bubble is about to deflate. That's her view. Whether valuations fall suddenly or gradually, the industry is due for a reckoning, and the consequences for the economy are dire. So I'll just give you an example of how much this sector of investing has grown. It was at 280 billion in the year 2000, and it's now the latest data at the end of 2023. It was 3.5 trillion. That's in North America. That includes the US and Canada. If you look at the GDP of the US, it's 29 trillion. So it's over 10%. Of course, it's smaller than the public stock market. I think that right now is valued at 200, 208% of GDP, or around 60 trillion or more. So yeah, this is much smaller, but this is a market where it's more for what they call um, accredited investors. For the very wealthy, is not something that mom and pop invests in. But one thing they talk about here is that public pensions, I think it's over here. Um, but anyway, it says here before we go to the public pensions, which is pensions held by, I guess, federal agencies, state agencies, and pensions for teachers and public sector workers. But it says any asset class inundated with money often gets frothy. And for private markets, that means more investments that may not pay off. The higher forever rate environment, well, that's the higher rates we're seeing since 2022 poses an extra challenge as the industry thrived and grew with rates near zero. Some parts of the private asset industry will weather higher rates, but others, commercial real estate, for example, may not be able to do so. Um, Yeah, this is the one here that could affect the general public. There are reports of pension funds not getting the big payouts they expected or not getting anything at all. Their money is essentially tied up in zombie funds. So why is it tied up? Well, because it's not a publicly traded fund, so you can't call your broker or click onto your brokerage account and sell it. It's really hard. It's done through the private market. And in the last 3 years since 2022, that's kind of um, dried up because it was all based on very cheap credit because a lot of these private equity companies or investors that invest in private equity, they will bro what they'll do is they'll take over, let's say, a public company and privatize it, but they'll load it with a lot of debt, and then they'll like supposedly make it efficient. They'll cut back a lot of times on the staff, they'll reorganize it, and then 2 years later, they'll sell it on part of the business, or they'll sell the whole business, make 20%, highly leveraged, and everyone's happy. But it's not working like that anymore. And I think it could be a big problem, just like this person here who wrote this, Alison Schrager, back in July, thinks. Of course, that's just her opinion and my opinion as well. But and usually it affects more, um, let's say, accredited investors, the very wealthy that can afford to lose some money. But it says here that pension funds are involved as well, and that and we see here, even if grandma does not directly own any private equity, she's still exposed. In the last decade, public pension funds have been especially keen on private markets, with private equity now accounting for about 15% of their portfolio. So that's quite big. It is remarkable that despite one of the best bull markets in recent memory, the funding status of many pension funds worsened. That's largely because of their optimistic assumptions about investment returns enabled by their private investments did not pan out. If their private investments do not pay out at all, well, there's a possibility, that all the money that they've put, the pension fund managers they put into the private market disappears. Says either pensioners will see their benefits cut or taxpayers will need to pay up. So that's one of the reasons why I think it could create trouble for the general economy. Another article here about China, private equity investors trapped in China as top firms fail to find exit deals. So even American companies in China, they're having trouble liquidating private equity business. Um, and private equity they're not like long-term investors. They come in and they take over they take over a small public company, they turn it into a private company, they reorganize it, and a couple of years later, they sell it for a 20, 30, 50% profit. But as you can see here, this is from December 25th. Private equity payouts fell 50% short in 2024. So let's see. That's the other thing that's interesting here, that the Bank of England, they're looking now to bail out basically a lot of these groups that are involved in private equity. You might want to call it shadow banking. And they're saying that they're going to keep the identities hidden because you can imagine, well, a lot of us who've been around for a while, we remember they bailed out the banks in '08. Now they're saying even if hedge funds, private equity, if they have problem, we're gonna come in and bail them out or do QE. So yeah, 3 trillion in North America, or 3.5 trillion, is quite a big exposure, and a lot of these investments, they're probably gone. They're not worth anything anymore. And the thing about private equity is that it's very opaque. So, of course, it's difficult to measure like in the stock market, we can see that the Dow is above 40,000. It looks toppish, but there is no index for the private equity sector. But we can tell from those charts I showed earlier that it's grown like more than 10 times in the last 25 years. And yes, the thing about it is that a lot of these private equity groups, they don't have to value, uh, they're under no pressure to value these assets properly. So, but I think eventually, gradually, it could affect the whole economy. Just have a sip of my water. So I'm going to stop here now and answer some of your questions. I see there's a few people asking questions. Jake's Custom Parts. Did you see the new interview with from Eric Sprott? No, I have not. I haven't seen it. Who he has he done the interview with? Um, what else? Someone, oh yeah, a spin-off bucket says Glint card now has silver. Yes, I announced that about a month ago. You can buy silver through Glint. If you're in the UK, there is no VAT, mainly because it's been held in an allocated account. If you do take delivery, they'll charge you the VAT. The other thing about the silver in the Glint card is that you can only buy it and hold it. You can't really spend it on the MasterCard yet. Maybe they will eventually give you that function, and you can't exchange it for gold either right now. Spin-off buckets, do you like the silver glint card? Yeah, I bought a little bit of silver through the glint card, but uh, I prefer having physical. But the reason why I'm affiliated with Glint is because I think it's a good idea. It's not for everyone, but it's good. You can basically spend gold through your MasterCard that they hold for you in a vault in Switzerland, allocated account. Yeah, it's not for everyone, but it's something interesting. And Glint is working a lot with US states in trying to provide like a mechanism for states like Texas and others to be able to provide the residents there with a gold-backed or maybe even silver-backed way of paying things state at the state level. So it's quite exciting. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. Joshua Porter, have you seen John Little's latest interview on Liberty and Finance? No, I haven't seen that. No, I have not seen it. Hey Mario, what about Rudy? A Rudy coin? Uh, well, I was thinking of something else maybe for this coming year because it's the 10th anniversary of the channel. So maybe there might be something. I won't add to it. Rudy could be part of it. We'll have to see. Tavistock lies and brainwashing. There's no Italian in mafia. Meyer, I think it was Meyer Lansky. Yes, he's part of the Jewish mafia. I think there's an Italian mafia as well. So yeah, there's an Irish mafia. There's mafias from all. There's the Wasp mafia if you want to go further as well. There's full of mafia. You could say there's a limey mafia here in the UK. English mafia. Bell and Cantu, you need to ask Glintz about that. I'm not a tax advisor, and I don't really work for them. I mean, I'm affiliated with them. You need to contact their help desk. Um, yeah. Where's the Fort Knox gold? Well, it's been leased out many times over to the bullion banks. It's probably sitting somewhere in a vault in China, Russia, or elsewhere, but not at Fort Knox, I would say. Scott 49 140, private equity did a leverage buyout. There you go. They're like of the supermarket I work for, and they have gone downhill recently. That's not surprising, and they've done uh, leverage buyouts of a lot of other companies. I mean, thousands of companies or hundreds of companies probably. It's very similar. It's just a euphemism for the leverage buyout of the 80s, Michael Milken and the junk bonds, except at that time it wasn't private. They issued public bonds, but it's the same concept. Borrow a lot of money, or a lot of credit when it's cheap, and reorganize the company and then flip it in 2 or 3 years and make a profit, and to hell with the employees and everything else, the quality. It's just financial engineering. And the reason it's grown so much is because the central banks kept rates for too low at zero for too long. The central banks printed too much money, and now it's reversing. Interest long-term yields have gone up by 1% since the Fed started cutting rates on September 18th. And right now we are at pretty high levels. I think we're at the highest levels this year in the 10-year, not just in the US, but in the UK. Yeah, I mean, I don't wish ill to anyone or any organization, but uh, I wouldn't really feel any pity for these investors because they've been greedy and they've been borrowing like there's no tomorrow. And I think yeah, yeah, they're gonna be paying dearly for it, and the way they're gonna be paying is that they're not gonna get anything, or they're gonna get a small fraction of the money they put in into these private deals. Daniel El Sorreno, what's your opinion on how the 10-year yield will affect gold price? Uh, Not that much, really. Ever since, well, the 10-year yield got to below 0.5% in 2020. Now it's at 4.6, and the gold price has gone from below 2000 or around 1500 actually in 2020. That was the low. We're now at 2600. Some people, a lot of people said when the Fed started raising rates and yields started going up, that gold was going to collapse because real yields are going to go up, and that high rising yields and interest rates is negative for gold. But they forget to look at the fact that this is not like a Goldilocks environment where you had rising yields and then they come down and they keep going lower generally. It's more like the 70s, and in the 70s, 10-year yield went from like 4.5 or 5 in the early 70s all the way to about 15.5% by 1981. And gold went from $35 to 850. So I don't think it would have much of an impact really because yeah, there's so much debt. It might even be worse for bonds and better for gold in the next few years than in the 70s. Because in the 70s, Uncle Sam only had a debt to GDP was like 30%. Now it's 130 almost. Sybil Faulty. Starting out, what's the best gold coin? Well, it depends where you are. Here in the UK, I would say it would be a sovereign, which is uh, just under a quarter of an ounce pure gold. For the US, would go with the gold eagles, um, the bullion coins minted by the U.S. Mint. You could also look into the pre-1933 gold coinage as well in the U.S. And go for the $20 piece, which is an ounce, or the one at, well, actually, it's not an ounce, the $20 gold piece. I'm sorry. It's about 0.967 of an ounce of gold. Or you could go for the one ounce gold coins that are minted today by the US Mint. You might want to, if you can't afford a 1 ounce, you can go for the half ounce, and I think they might do quarter ounces as well. Or you could even buy a sovereign, um, which is a UK coin, but is recognized worldwide. Um, yeah, I'm affiliated in the States with Miles Franklin. You can give him a call and ask all those questions. They'll help you. There's some all the description is below in yeah, all the details are below in the description if you want to find out more. And here in the UK, there's also my affiliation with Gold Investments. So you can find out how to get in touch with them also in the description of all my videos. And they'll help you too. I mean, you can ask them all the questions you need. Yeah, Jake Customs Part says pre-33 gold coins are awesome. Yeah, I have some, even though I'm not in the US. I have some $20, 10, and $5. $5, which is yeah, which is a quarter. The $5, 10, 20, 10 is an eagle. $5, half an eagle. There's a quarter eagle, which is the $2.50 as well. And $20, the double eagle. X question, BlackRock bankruptcy coming? Um, I don't really see it right now. I mean, BlackRock is more of a very diversified fund manager. Um, they don't really own much. They own assets for people. That's the thing people forget. BlackRock might have the biggest holdings in most companies, but it's not really BlackRock that owns it. Well, they own it, but indirectly for people like you and me, if you put your money into a pension fund, they'll invest in BlackRock funds. It's just like the funds they had in the 90s. I remember the Merrill Lynch funds and others. That's all it is. But I don't think they're in danger of going bankrupt, BlackRock right now, unless, of course, there's a total crash of everything. Then not just BlackRock might be in danger, but a lot of other financial institutions and even other and individuals and governments and everyone else that has a lot of debt. Ryan Morosi, thank you for your super chat. What's your 2025 alternative economic and trade outlook for the global economies? Well, I think the mainstream view is that Europe uh, is in bad shape, that Europe is going to collapse, and that the US might go into a recession as well. That's the mainstream view. What's my view? Well, my view is that things are even worse than they're letting on. But at the same time, my actually alternative economic and contrarian outlook is that we shouldn't get too pessimistic. And you know that I've been forecasting for in the UK, for example, that we'd have a UK economic collapse, that the debt would uh, catch up with us, and that is happening now. But I see also, and rightfully so, a lot of negativity because of what the government is doing in terms of fiscal policy, and also all the rules and regulations to do with net zero that's hurting the economy here. But to give up on the UK or even or Germany or other countries, I also think that's a little bit overdone because I think it's going to be a good time if you've been doing what I've been trying to do, which is stack gold and silver for a rainy day. You're going to be very happy because you're going to hopefully find a lot of opportunities out there. So yeah, that's the way I see things. That yes, things aren't great, but it's not the end of the world, and I'm going to stay put in the UK. I know there's a lot of things going on that are not great, but it seems to be everywhere. Even in Switzerland, I was there for just under a week talking to people there, family and stuff. They're doing the same agendas that they're running here in the UK with immigration and everything else in Switzerland. So even Switzerland things are not 100%, even though they are, I would say, a lot better. So I hope that helps, that answer, Ryan. Silver for all collapse later or earlier in the year. Well, for the US, I would say it could be early in the year. I mean, and the new administration might want to see things uh, maybe not collapse, but a recession. They might want to see it early on because then the economy will start recovering for the next electoral cycle. Who knows? There you go. The wild goose, you recommend buying gold and silver coins of the Mon realm because they're capital gains tax free. That's right. The monarch, you mean the coins of the realm can all be reclaimed and act to do this already legally in place in the UK and Australia and Canada. I'm not too sure about that, Wild Goose. I think you've mentioned that before, and I've looked into that question. And there's a writer. He was like in the during the Middle Ages, like 14th century, who wrote about that. And a lot of the monarchs or kings and queens, they thought they owned the coin, but morally that's wrong because even though they might mint, the reason monarchs or governments mint coins, it's only to make sure to protect that they're like bona fide gold and that the standard of the coins are kept um, there's a standard of weight and fineness. And if someone exchanges the currency, the paper currency for that gold coin, or exchanges his effort or work for that gold coin, it would be against common law to come and confiscate that. So I'm not too sure about that. Uh, and even if you think they could do that, I think it's better to have, you know, if you had not bought gold, let's say in the last 9 years, since I've been talking about it here on this channel, and I'm not like saying people should buy it, I'm just saying that I do it, you would have missed out a lot already. So, yes, anything's possible. They locked us up for 240 days here a few years ago for something that wasn't really, I mean, I can't really talk too much about it, but yeah, so they can do anything, but While I still can, I think it's still the best thing to do, because with paper money and savings, they're like confiscating your purchasing power every day through inflation. So there you go. Over here says I'm disappointed that gold didn't reach 3,000 and silver didn't reach 35 spot this year. I'm not disappointed. Gold and silver have done what they usually promise. You know, they go up in value versus fiat currency. I mean, gold is up almost 30%, and so is silver. And over here, we still have a day and a half for this year. So who knows? Anything could happen. Graham Diamond, how do you rate Keir Starmer as Prime Minister? Oh, I think he's doing a great job for the people who are telling him what to do. But for the British public, he's no good, of course. But that's that's why I don't think it really matters who people vote for, because it doesn't matter who wins. It's the big corporations and the globalists who are still in charge. So yeah, I think he's doing a really good job. He even said that he prefers Davos to Westminster. So yeah, that's why, people get fooled all the time. Uh, it looks like they're getting fooled as well by the president-elect. I heard there's a lot of controversy, or I've read about immigration now and the H-1B visa. So there you go. It's everywhere. They promise one thing and they do another, and it doesn't matter who it is. Um, But I did buy, I don't, like I said, I don't trust any of them, but I did buy one of these only because I think it could be a good collector's item, and I received it. Well, actually, my neighbor took it in for me when I was away. I got one of these, a 1 ounce silver. It's actually technically a metal. So there you go, 1 ounce Trump coin. I paid a lot more than spot, but I think it's a good collector's item. So there you go. Jack says friends in Switzerland are feeling the pinch now. Yeah, I mean that's what I was told. My family members and people there. It's not just in the UK, and also the immigration question is the same in Switzerland. But at least the Swiss, they have the referenda that they can use, and even the local referenda. And I'll come to that in a minute before I answer Chris's question. Thank you, Chris, for your super chat. It is said that silver suffers in a recession. Your thoughts? Thanks. Yeah, I mean, like in '08, you had the crash in 2008. Gold went from 1,000 to 680. I think silver dropped from $21 to 9. Um, but then they rebounded once the central banks came in, and silver went up to like 50 almost in 2011. So yes, it might suffer like short term, and even in the 70s, it was a stagflationary environment most of the time. And silver did very well as well. But the key in the 70s and now, I think, is that when silver does well, yeah, if you're not in it, you won't participate. It frustrates you for a few years, like it has the last 4 or 5 years, and then all of a sudden it takes off. And a lot of people that had been in silver, they they miss out because they've given up. So I was going to talk about Switzerland, something I was going to say, but now I forgot. Um, what was it? Did I see Clive in Switzerland? No, because he went to the mount up the mountains as well from Geneva, but he went to n- as the crow flies, not very far from me, but it would take him 3 hours or me 3 hours by car and train to see each other. So we didn't really, unfortunately, have time to see each other or meet up. Um, yeah. But he's going to be back. I think he's back tonight to Geneva. He said he was getting back a bit late, but he will be back on Friday for our chat and hopefully for next Sunday's live stream. Uh, Mr. Siljidi, do you think there will be a new gold standard in the world? And if yes, when? You want? Uh, I think the BRICS bloc is already kind of moving towards a gold standard. Um, yeah, I think they are, but it's difficult to say when it's going to take place because right now we still under a fiat dollar standard, even the BRICS countries, but maybe when this system collapses, and it will, we'll have to get back on the gold standard. And getting back on the gold standard, in my opinion, means that countries should allow the public to use gold. And I think we should use silver as well, bimetallic. Having a bimetallic system is a lot better. That it means more liquidity for everyone. uh, you should be able to exchange at a fixed rate the local paper currency. It should be a certificate for gold and silver. Uh, because if we have like a Bretton Woods gold exchange system, it's not really a gold standard. So we'd have to really go back to having governments or countries mint their own coins, and we'd have, the gold standard from the 19th century until the outbreak of World War One. That wasn't even a planned thing. It just worked. Yeah, it just worked. It's just like doing business. But if there is another one, I think there will be some kind of conference. My hope is that it will be a pure gold standard and we'll be carrying gold and silver coins around again. It might sound crazy, but I don't think so. I don't think so. Or maybe they will find a way of digitizing the gold coins and you'd have an app, and then but then you'd also have be able would have to be able to go to a bank or anywhere else to get that coin if you want the coin, and if you don't just want an app. Of course, a lot of people are going to say it's not going to happen, everything's going to collapse, and they're going to put us into CBDCs. But if the CBDCs aren't backed by anything, uh, I don't think it will work. Jason Pate, will there be a gold revaluation? I think people worry too much about a gold revaluation, right? We're already having it in the current fiat system, but if the fiat system collapses, does it really matter what the price of gold is in a dead system? No, it doesn't. What the market and the public will quickly realize is that. Yeah, gold will be the common denominator, maybe per gram, for example, or per ounce of silver, how much will you be able to buy in terms of goods and services? So no, I think the revaluation is happening already, but once the fiat dollar system collapses, it won't really matter. It's because $1 million won't mean anything. So that's the way I see it. Born for free, taxed to death. Says Trump will strengthen the dollar, then gold should drop. Well, maybe, but if you look at the dollar since 2008, it's gone from 70 on the dollar index to where it is right now. I'm not sure exactly where it is, somewhere above 100. So, uh, at the time, gold was at 1,000 when the dollar index hit 70 in March of 2008, and now we're at 2,600. So both the dollar and gold can go up together, but I suspect that Trump likes low interest rates and a lot of debt, and that's not really a recipe for a strong dollar. I mean, when he was president the first time, he was upset that Jay Powell was raising rates, and he wanted him to cut rates quicker, actually get to zero and do what the ECB was doing. So I'm not too sure if Trump will be positive for the dollar. Will they destroy the market before January 20th? Me and you is asking, who do you mean by they? I mean, the market is made up of hundreds of millions of people all around the world. If by they you mean like the current administration, and I mean that's tough thing to do. Who knows? I don't think that's how it will happen. Or maybe they could bring in really bad data for the economy. I see that the jobs number this coming month is going to be on the 10th of January. It's not going to be this coming Monday. It's going to be the second Monday, sorry, this coming Friday, excuse me. It's going to be the second Friday of the month. Maybe they'll come out with a really bad jobs number, and then the economy will, the stock market drops. Who knows? But then the market will also expect more cuts from the Fed, and that might help the market. So who knows? It's difficult. Or sometimes markets just drop because they're going to drop. It's got nothing to do with politics or even economic data. David Stops inflate is asking, is inflation coming in strong for next few years? I think they've already started inflating. Um, yeah, through the fiscal policy, they're running almost 7% deficits. And even if the new Treasury Secretary is able to cut the deficit to 3% of GDP as he wants by 2028, and I don't think he'll be able to do that. Yeah, no, and the Fed's been cutting as well now, and you've got the deficit spending. That is inflation itself. Um, yeah, I don't see and the consequence of that, of course, will be higher prices and and a weaker dollar in terms of purchasing power. So yes, I think that's going to continue. Jimmy Hat, emergency rate cuts. Well, not right now. I think the markets are discounting less than two rate cuts now for 2025. The Fed, of course, said in its last FOMC meeting, I think that was just before Christmas, that they're looking to do just two cuts instead of four now. But like you said, if there is some kind of crisis, be it geopolitical or be a banking crisis or private equity leading to a crisis, yeah, that would all uh, f- turn on a dime, as the saying goes. And not only could they start cutting rates, they aggressively, they could also start doing QE, But I think if they cut rates aggressively and do QE, you could actually see continue to see the long-term yields, like on the long-term maturities, still go higher. And that would be a huge problem for them. Yeah, that would be a huge problem. Dutch Libertarian thinks there will be a bank collapse soon. Well, that's the other problem with rising yields, bond yields, because bond banks hold a lot of bonds. We'll have to see. That is possible. I mean, we had the banking crisis last year in March. SVB, Republic, I think. I forgot the names now. Some banks failed. Yeah, in Switzerland, of course, Credit Suisse failed. I think it was this year, earlier this year. So it's a little bit like subprime. That subprime started really early in 2007, and it didn't culminate until like Lehman collapsed in September of '08. So yeah, who knows? We could see another resurgence of banking troubles. Yeah, Greg says he bought coffee today. Yeah, coffee and cocoa, they're all-time highs, the commodities. Uh, Mr. Siljidi, how will they continue to harvest the mass if they will not be able to inflate anymore with the new hypothetical new future gold standard? Well, they're gonna try to harvest or suck the wealth out of the masses with the CBDC first, I think. And like yeah, that's how they're gonna try to do it. But if that fails, that means they've lost their power, and they might get some back with a gold standard. Who knows? But ideally, the powers that be, maybe, I don't know. The ideal thing is that they lose completely and they end up with no gold, and the people are in charge. The people who hold the gold will make the rules. Who knows? But unfortunately, they're always trying to do what you're saying there, the harvest thing. And unfortunately, people fall for it because they think that the powers that be are there to help them and to govern them. Uh, that's how they see it, unfortunately. So maybe in the end of the day, we need to stay, uh, as Jim Sinclair used to say, as our own central bank, and always be skeptical about them, no matter what. That's the way I see it. And some people might say, "Oh, that's really negative and cynical," but why? Why is it negative and uh, uh, cynical to want to be self-reliant and independent? I mean, I know we can't maybe be completely out of the system, but we should have at least one foot out of the system, I would say. Richard, to be true, thank you for your super chat. Do you think software is better for USA than LIBOR? Software and LIBOR have nothing to do with the USA. USA is the United States of America. Software and LIBOR are just banksters' reference rates. The reason they had to go from LIBOR to SOFR is that LIBOR lost all its credibility because even the central banks uh, try to tell the banks to manipulate that rate. So they had to come up with something new called SOFR, but it's not better for the USA. any better than LIBOR was. Uh, the thing about SOFR and LIBOR is that they're used as references for loans throughout the economy. They're set by these big Wall Street banks. And I think that's wrong. That means the system is too centralized. So no, I don't think it's any better or any worse. It's the same software. It's just controlled more out of New York. LIBOR, as the name goes, London Interbank Offered Rate. It's more of an international rate. So the Fed maybe didn't have as much control of it. Silver Task, thank you for being a moderator. And he says, hit the likes. Yes, that does help. Wojak says, precious metals are not an investment. They are an insurance. Well, I actually beg to differ. In the current environment that we're in, where the fiat currencies are melting down. I know not all of a sudden, but gradually melting down over the last 2 decades. It works like an investment because it's actually helping people not just protect the purchasing power, but increase it, I would say. In a perfect world where gold is just money, of course, yeah, it's money, not an investment. But in the world where the monetary system is been corrupted, I think gold acts as an investment. There you go. There's Rudy. He's fast asleep. Yeah, I went to pick him up this afternoon because when we went to Switzerland, we left him with this really nice family. They have they got two young kids, and he had a really good time. But he was happy to see us again. Greg Austin, software is not manned, true or false. What do you mean by not manned? I'm not sure what that means. Um, I think it's just set by the futures market or where they need to set a rate every day for software. It's in the market. I guess LIBOR, they had a fixing every day where all the different dealers called and asked each other where the rate was. Um, so maybe that's better that they don't have like a fixing mechanism. And by fixing, I don't mean, they could manipulate it, of course, by fixing. But yeah, thoughts on platinum. I mean, yes, it's a precious metal, uh, and relative to gold, yeah, in the last 14 years, it's very undervalued, and some people um, think it's a good place to be. But I'm sticking to gold and silver because that's what I know. Uh, uh, but yeah, I don't have any platinum, but I'm not saying you shouldn't. I still think commodities, as I made a video um, recently that I think commodities are on the way higher. They've consolidated for around 2.5 years now, but I think the next leg up is coming soon. Wojak says it's a shame the common man has been priced out of owning physical gold. Not necessarily. I mean, you can buy here in the UK, you can buy a quarter of a half a sovereign for about £250. I know that's quite. quite a bit, but you could do it through Glint, the Glint app. I know it's not, you're not holding the physical gold. They hold it for you in the vault, but you can buy with as little as $1 or £1. I'm affiliated with them. If you want to find out more, there's details in the description. But well, there's still time to buy silver. So I think if the common man can't afford or a common woman can't afford gold right now, they could definitely still afford silver. I think silver is like being almost given away right now. Belen can too. Do you think the gold miners continue going down in price? Actually, I think under they're at levels that are really undervalued. If you go back to like 2015, 16 versus the S&P, uh, they've actually have performed just as well as the S&P, but in the short term, they're undervalued. So I think they'll go back up. Yeah. They're always more volatile than the metals, the miners. I'm holding on to my miners, be they the producers or also the junior miners, both in gold and silver. So there you go. Mr. Sojidi asking about the banking families and if there's other layers on top of it. Definitely, I think there are. All the most obvious people like Rockefellers, Rothschilds. Uh, I don't think they're in charge. It's people that we probably have never heard of, and I think a lot of them are old European families. Yeah, so and the guys that get the flack, they're not necessarily uh, the people who are really running the show. And for those families, you can look at the some people talk about the black nobility of the Papal States or Rome, whatever you want to call it. And they're still around, and a lot of them have had popes in the family in the last few hundred years. So that those are the ones I mean, and also uh, families like that in France and Germany or even here in the UK. Jimmy Hack says Pope suggested that Jubilee. Well, Jubilee used to happen, I think, every 7 years, and then there's a big Jubilee every 49 years as well. But we haven't had, uh, I guess, a hyperinflationary collapse would be a debt Jubilee. That would destroy the currency and the debt. Who knows? Scott 49 140. Where does the BIS stand up in relation to these families? Well, the BIS is owned by all the major European and North American central banks, and those central banks are all owned by the those families that we've been talking about, not just the Rockefeller, Rothschilds, but the others as well. They're all Yeah, they're all connected. The Bank for International Settlements and these people. All right. So I'll take one more question. It's almost time to wrap up. It's almost 10 o'clock. I'm waiting for the great reset. When? Graham, I think it's happening as we speak. Uh, we've had a reset of 30% this year. Um, what does that mean? Well, the major fiat currencies have dropped roughly around 30% versus gold. Yeah, that's a reset. It's resetting the price. I think what you're talking about is like something that would happen over a weekend, and yeah, and then you wake up the next Monday, on the Monday, and things have changed completely. It's possible, but yeah, I don't have a crystal ball, but yeah, we're moving towards that. If not a reset, a collapse. So that's the way I see it. And by collapse, I mean of the currency, which of course would stall all the world economies. But I don't think that's a bad thing because things can be reset as you say it, but I don't know when. Mark Jameson, will the Iraqi dinar revalue? I don't look at the Iraqi dinar. I think you should forget about that. That's a scam. Um, why would you want to hold Iraqi dinars? Anyway, I'd like to thank all of you for being here. As you can see, Rudy's relaxing, and yeah, I want to wish all of you uh, yeah, a happy new year. And I hope you all had a really great Christmas with your family and that, yeah, you continue to do well and have a great new year coming up in 2025. And thanks for, yeah, having an interest in what I have to say. And hopefully, we'll talk again soon. Take care.